I grew my business in that way, and people saw how I was growing it, which then in turn got me into coaching. And they were like, how are you doing this? How did you grow your business? How did you grow your network? It feels like you grew up here. You know so many people and you're connecting so many people. So that's what brought me from the not knowing anybody to knowing a lot of people, leveraging my network to make sure that my business runs successfully and my clients' businesses run successfully.
Welcome to the Her First podcast, a platform to help online business owners, coaches, and creators gain the confidence needed to build a successful business while creating a sustainable lifestyle balance. We are here to help you prioritize yourself in business and life. I'm Joanna Newton.
And I'm Michelle Puolani. In this podcast, along with the Her First Collective, you can engage in the challenges women face in business, ways to increase your impact or income online, and how to make it all work while launching, scaling, or maintaining. Spoiler, it's not about perfectionism, hustling, or a copy-paste methodology. Let's dive in.
Hello, and welcome back to Her First. Today, we are talking about networking and the role that it plays in the growth of your business. And I'd like to take a moment to introduce our very special guest for today, Maria Medina. Maria is the founder and CEO of the Coaching Network. She helps professionals and entrepreneurs succeed in their careers and businesses by leveraging their online networks and their networks overall. Welcome to the show, Maria.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here today.
What's really fun about this conversation is Maria and I were introduced from our shared networks. So we're talking about networking, and how we met was through networking. One of my clients just reached out and said, you have to talk to Maria. She is a super connector. That's what she said. That was my introduction. So I'd love to know from you, can you tell me what is a super connector? And also tell us a little bit about you.
I feel that when people say that, it's just because after I meet them, I'm very good at listening to what they're saying. So when I have a conversation with somebody and they tell me exactly what they need, so if they're clear in their communication and they say, I want to meet these type of people, or I'm in this type of industry, I really listen out to it. And then my brain just starts working and thinking about all those people that I know that I could connect them to. So as they're speaking to me and I'm just envisioning, and you'll see me during the meeting, I'll be like writing stuff down, and it's usually introduced to, and I'll start writing down names, and I'll write like a little word of why I'm introducing them to that particular person. So that's what happened with our connection. We were having a conversation, and as she was telling me all about her business and about what she did, a light bulb it automatically just goes out of my head, and I'm like, okay, this is who they have to meet in my network, who I can connect them with. That's going to be both beneficial for the person I'm talking to and the people I'm introducing them to.
It's making me think of StrengthsFinder in terms of relationship building. I think that sometimes each of us have a propensity or a skill set in connection in this networking that we're going to talk about today, and ability to do that. So I'm hoping that we have some tips that apply to those people who feel like maybe networking isn't a strong suit of theirs, and they're going to be able to apply these in order to get better. And then also for those of us who maybe feel naturally inclined in this direction and relationship building is a strong suit of ours, how can we either better enhance or start to think of more strategically? Because I know from my perspective, I feel like I've been a good relationship builder, but I don't exactly know how to leverage or utilize my network. So even though I know all these people, I'm connected to all these people, how do I actually make the introductions that matter and support, what someone's looking for, or even what I'm looking for in the process? So can you give us a little bit more background about you and how you got to where you are today?
So I'm originally from Colombia, and I had the privilege of living all over the world, which I think feeds into my ability to connect with people from different backgrounds. So I lived in Egypt for a few years. I lived in Spain. I ended up in the UK in London. That's where I went to university and met my wife. And I was there for about 10 years. And when we decided to move, she said, I want to move to the States. She loves America. We landed in Florida, and I bought a business. And you can imagine coming from somewhere where you don't know anybody where you're going. My sister was an hour away, but in the immediate community where I was buying a business and trying to grow that business, I didn't know anybody. And the first thing I said that I was going to do and I set out to do was I need to meet as many people as possible to make me successful in my business. The more people I know and the more people I can connect with, not only for sales and for that specific point of the business, but who's going to be my attorney? Who's going to be my accountant? Who's going to get my insurance? Who's going to take care of my machines, my software? I need to meet as many people as possible so that then I'm not only using them for resources, but if my clients that I'm serving with this particular need, which was printing, need something else, they'll know who to ask. They'll come to me immediately and say, hey, I know you don't do this, but do you have somebody? And I like to be able to say, I've got a gal, I've got a guy, I've got somebody I can send you to take care of this. And being able to do that and being that go-to person that it sort of removes the stress from the situation from them, because they're like, it's okay, I'll just ask Maria. She'll tell me where to go. And it brought me a lot of joy, and I grew my business. I grew my business in that way, and people saw how I was growing it, which then in turn got me into coaching. And they were like, how are you doing this? How did you grow your business? How did you grow your network? It feels like you grew up here. You know so many people and you're connecting so many people. So that's what brought me from the not knowing anybody to knowing a lot of people, leveraging my network to make sure that my business runs successfully and my clients' businesses run successfully. Because that's what people forget. They get really focused in their own business, and you don't realize that your clients and if your community around you is doing well, so will you. It just comes back. And I was really in tune to that, and that allowed me to then launch my coaching.
It's so interesting because I think a lot of like entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, it can be very super hyper independent, right? Or at least maybe I'm just talking to myself. But you can go to start your business and think, oh, well, I'm just going to do this on my own. I'm going to figure out how to run my books. I'm going to figure out how to build my website, and almost wear that as like a badge of honor. I did this all on my own, instead of actually tapping into the magic of someone else's brain and someone else's skill set to push your business forward. Because maybe they can do that task in half the time, a quarter of the time, because it's what they do, right? Or maybe that strategy or that piece is way more effective because it's what they do and what it's connected to me. And when I think about networking, what is stressful to me is like keeping track of all of that, like how I kind of keep track of who I know and who does what and all of these people. That's like a lot to hold in your brain. So if someone was interested, they're listening to this conversation and thinking, oh, that's really interesting, I could grow my business through a network. How would they just get started networking with people?
It goes to the point that you were saying. And as people get immersed in their business and they think, I can build my own website, I can do my own accounting, and they start learning all these skills, they don't realize that, yes, you can do that now, but as you get busier and in the future, who's going to do it? And then you're going to be too busy to find that resource to help you do it, because you're going to be focusing in the business and you can't strategize for your business. So one of the things that I always tell my clients is, what do you love doing? What do you love doing about your business that is actually helping you grow your business? Because that's where you're most productive. If you're doing the things that you enjoy that are actually contributing to the business. And there's a caveat there too, because if you're doing things that you enjoy, but they're not contributing to your business, then you're not really growing your business. So make sure that the stuff that you're enjoying is actually contributing to your business. Focus on those activities that are helping your business grow, and then delegate or outsource the other activities. And that's where you start to build your network. Because at first, you won't be able to delegate because you can't hire. Maybe you don't have the capital to hire, but you're able to get a website person. And like you said, they can do it in a quarter or even a tenth of the time, much better than you would by watching that YouTube video. And it frees up your time. So they need to start by really valuing the time, their own time that they're contributing to their business. And that's where a lot of entrepreneurs get lost. They say, I can do everything. And they leave a corporate job to go work for themselves, or they were working 9 to 5, and now they're working 9 to 9 because they devalued their time when really they should assign more value to their time and put that time into activities that they enjoy and they like doing, which with myself was growing my business through networking, and delegate or outsource the rest.
So it sounds like having a clear intention of what it is that you even want from networking in the first place is almost a good place to start, to sit back and think about, how can I use my time and energy in my business to the best of my capabilities? What am I uniquely qualified to do? What do I enjoy doing? What are the areas of interest in which I feel like I can show up, perform my best, and continue to grow and scale the business? And from there, start to identify the tasks, the activities, the positions potentially that you're looking for and need support with. And then that's how you got started networking, is just looking for whether that's the accountant or bookkeeper, lawyer, relationships with vendors, suppliers, people in the community who are going to help support you through that process. I know that for me, what Joanna mentioned about like being able to keep track of it can be really challenging sometimes. I think I've used a CRM tool just in the past, not for like prospects or leads, but simply to kind of catalog, okay, I know this person, they're a part of this company, this is what they do, this is how we met, this is the relationship, and kind of tracking it that way. So I don't know if you use tools like that, Maria, in order to help kind of organize and coordinate the network as you start to grow it. Do you have any systems in place that are utilized in that way?
It's funny you say that. I actually have a Rolodex. I've got an old-fashioned business card, old school Rolodex, and I'm working right now to digitize it. And what I'm trying to do and how that works is, when I first meet these people, I try and focus on things other than what company and what do they do. I try to focus more on who is this person, because people do business with people they know, like, trust, and value. And that's one of the core principles of what I teach. And to know and like you, that's where you start to remember then this is what they do. And it just becomes second nature. And that's why when I'm having a conversation with somebody and they say something that links back to that industry, the light bulb automatically goes off. And I remember that person because I have that personal connection with the person. So do they have a dog? Do they have a family? Do they like kayaking? Like, who is this person? And then their profession and what they do comes secondary. And it's more natural because you're more likely to remember somebody by who they are as a person and personally. So get to know them and like them. And then you can remember their profession. You're more likely to do that than if you have a list of like, these are all the professions and this is everything they do. And what I'm trying to do with the app when I'm digitizing the cards right now is I'll put like a little note of either how I met them, a little like personal fact, but then also just not the company name, but the industry, or like if they specialize in divorces, or if they're good connections for attorneys. And then when somebody asks me, I can just go in the app and put that keyword in there, and it helps me find the business card, which is, this app is great because you can take a picture of the actual business card, save it as a contact, and then add notes to it. So when you forward it to somebody, you can forward the picture of that.
The thing that my head's kind of spinning on is I feel like I encounter so many people all of the time. I'm like, this is a great person. Like, maybe I don't have an immediate reason to work with that person or follow up with them, but being able to kind of have that running catalog. So as you're talking, as you're meeting, as you're referring, you can connect with that. This week, I actually had a lot of just sort of, I guess, networking calls this week, which normally I'm not on a lot of them, but just people who've been like, you should talk to this person, you should talk to this person. And I had 3 of those this week, and all of them were fantastic calls. And they're not necessarily like someone I'm going to go send a proposal to work with me. And I'm like, what do I do next? Right. Like, in thinking of like how I can keep up those relationships because I'm very busy. I'm in and out of calls all of the time and want to keep connected, and having a good place to store those people for the future is, I think, really important. I think the other thing that I think might be a barrier to people for like going down like sort of that networking path and referring people is like fear of competition. Because when someone does something similar to you, but not exactly what you do, you might want to like, oh, not have them in your network. But you brought up the point is like people work with people and they want people they have a personal connection with. So I might do something and say you did this. We don't do the same thing, but say Maria, you and I technically did the same thing. There are going to be people who connect with you and want to do it with you because you have your philosophy and communication style and all of those things that are a better fit. And there are going to be people who just better sync with me, and that is okay. And I think when we start to stop thinking about people in similar areas to us as competitors, it makes a big difference. I was talking to someone today on a discovery call that really wanted to launch a campaign with ads. And I don't focus on ads, and it's not the type of launches I like to run. And so I have someone I know that does run ads. They also offer a lot of the same services I offer, but I don't do ads. So I'm more than happy to say, hey, go talk to that person about ads because I don't want to run course launches with ads. Just not what I want to do. And I think when we start to get over competition, that can help us actually network better.
I definitely agree. And as you can imagine, in my first business in the States, printing, that was extremely competitive. In where I was in Broward County in Florida, there was a print shop every 3 to 4 blocks. You would see a print shop and everybody was doing the same thing, but they weren't me. And me going out there, getting to know people, and to what you were saying, at one point I had a friend come up to me and say, "Did you just turn away business?" And I said, "Yeah, it's not a good fit. I'm not going to be able to produce what that person wants. And I don't want to tarnish the relationship by under delivering. I don't want to say, yeah, I can certainly do that and then give them something that they don't want, because that's my reputation. That's what they're going to remember me by." And when I'm teaching my client on how to network, one of the key things that they have to focus on is that trust. Because if somebody loses trust in you, not only are they not going to use you for your business, they're not going to trust you for other needs. And if somebody asks about you or about your product or service, they're going to be truthful and say, hey, this was my experience. And not only have you lost the trust of that person, but you've lost the trust of the people in their network. And the aspect of trust comes from delivery. It comes from what product or service am I providing? What am I saying am I providing? And am I actually delivering on what I say I'm going to do? If I tell you, hey, I'm going to introduce you to these 5 people, and then a month has passed and I don't do that, you're not going to trust me. That trust is going to be gone, and then the value goes again. So people do business with people they know, like, trust, and value. So go and meet the people in your community and find those people that like you, trust you, and then build that value. And that's where the competition falls, because there can be 100 people that do what you do, but none of them are going to do it exactly how you do it.
This is becoming more and more important in the online space as well. I mean, I think in the brick and mortar world, when you're looking at a local company or a small business and a community, you have a certain area, you have certain range, maybe you're part of the chamber, maybe you're going to networking groups, you're meeting people in person. But when you get online, some of this stuff doesn't translate as well, and it can be a little bit more challenging to have the network or build and grow the network, even though there's a lot more opportunity because your quantity isn't limited. It can seem challenging, I think, to break that barrier down because you have a digital presence, right? And you have screens in front of you and you are communicating through video or through words, getting on Zoom calls, which just aren't always the same as in person. So I think it's interesting that we're seeing this direction with the online space going of needing and wanting more trust, needing and wanting more authenticity, needing and wanting more genuine connections, because I feel like with the way that things have gone and with the advent of AI and with scammers, we just had a conversation on the podcast about a more scam-like incident for agencies, is that people are becoming more and more skeptical about who they invest in, who they do trust, and how they look for resources and they look for services and they look for people and companies to buy from. So I think that this is such an important conversation. And as a listener, really considering for yourself and thinking about, how am I creating trust? How am I building my network in a way that is built off of not just trust, but being able to invest in these businesses, these services in a way that is going to support you in the long term? Because I know that looking at some of my investments, I wish that I had not made certain investments because there were questionable ethics in terms of the companies that I was working with. And so now that's tarnished the business, it's tarnished the opportunities that I have had, and it hasn't exactly set me up or built a foundation for growth over time. So, Maria, as we're thinking about networking, as we're thinking about building these relationships, about creating trust, a lot of the times I think that as coaches, as creators, as online businesses, we think a lot more about what it is that we're doing, the quality of our work, how we can show up in more of our own content, how we can write more, how we can produce more, how we can create more products and programs. And someone might look at networking and say like, oh, well, that's not important for me right now. I'm not thinking about relationships. I don't want to do that. What sort of advice could you give them if they're more focused on like what they're doing as opposed to who they're meeting and how they're growing their network?
People forget that networking isn't just about meeting people and making relationships, but it's about resources. And you can do this whether you're in a corporation or you own a small business. And you can start by what you're doing. What are you doing in your business? What are you frustrated with? What's not working? What are you overpaying for? And then you can go out and look for that resource one by one. Am I overpaying in merchant processing solutions? Let me, go to a Facebook group and be like, hey, does anybody have a merchant that can save me money on credit card processing? Am I overpaying in insurance? Let me ask my friend that owns a similar business, hey, who do you use? And you can start building that trust with the social aspect of your network, because you can ask the people around you, who are they using, just for those immediate needs. So people forget that you can use your network to make your work easier. They think networking is just for sales and just going out there to do sales, grow my business, but it's not. Networking is for your whole business. Networking is to find that HR company that's going to help you hire, that website company, or that company that's going to help you launch your online course. So what are you doing in your business that you need help with? And it's just, I guess, the barrier is admitting I need help with this. I can't do this myself. I'm stuck in my business working 9 to 9 when I wanted more freedom.
And the reality is, as a business owner myself, I know that every time I join up with an expert, pay someone to do something, it helps my business grow. It does. And so leveraging people and networks and putting that all together does help get you to the next level. I think what's hard is those early stages. If you're bootstrapped, you don't have funding, you're doing it on your own, figuring out how to bring people in as you can. That's something we had to do with growing Millennial Marketer. Was we did everything ourselves at the first stage, and then we were like, okay, we need help, and had to invest our earnings right back into the business to bring on great people to help us in the pieces that we needed help with. And that can be hard when you're trying to make ends meet. It's a challenging thing to do, but to be a business owner, you have to not be so short-sighted to think about like your income 1 month versus like the value of your business. Obviously, you have to make money to pay your bills and all of that. There has to be balance there. But if what you're doing has a potential ROI, you have to like put that into perspective.
And that comes like Joanna, that comes from analyzing everything that you're doing. So what am I having this, like you said, you had a bunch of networking meetings that you did. Like, what am I having this meeting for? What's the purpose? And it's approaching everything you do with that goal in mind. What am I trying to achieve overall? And it's ultimately to have a successful business or to be successful in my career. How is this getting me closer to that goal without also, it being detrimental to the relationships? I'm not just a user. I'm not just using everybody for what they have. It's how am I getting closer to the goal and how am I bringing people up with me? And that's where people lose it because they go in their little silo and they just focus on themselves. And then they forget to utilize their network. And then their network forgets to utilize them because they're not in it.
They're not being an active participant in it. And when I think of networking, and I've seen this before at events, sometimes, people will just go in and they'll just hand their business card out to whoever they can talk to. And they're always kind of trying to push. And like you said, networking isn't just for sales, but sometimes people go in with this matter of like, hey, this is what I can do for you. Hey, this is what I can do for you. Hey, this is what I can do for you. So someone who wants to include more networking in their lives, say in the online space, they're limited in terms of in-person opportunities. How could they get started and how could they do it in a genuine way that made it feel like a win-win relationship or an opportunity for the relationship to grow and build over time and not just, hey, my name's Michelle. This is what I do. This is how I can help you. Do you want business? Does someone want business? And just feels really pushy and not so comfortable.
And it goes back to the value that people bring to the conversation. So people do business with people they know, like, trust, and value. So it's what value am I bringing to this relationship? And I had a client who was in the medical space and med spa. And obviously, realtors are a great source of referrals for her, for people, new people moving into town, new people moving into the area. And she was like, I can only really send one realtor business because there's only so many limited real estate deals that I have. What value am I bringing if I go out there and engage and start meeting with a bunch of realtors? And I said, well, you're actually a resource to them if you think of it for yourself and you say, I provide this service and I'm going to guarantee to you, this realtor, that if you send anybody, it's going to improve your reputation as somebody that knows what they're talking about. So this is a service I provide. I'm going to provide it a quality service. I'm going to deliver on this. And I'm going to provide this value to you so that you can be a resource to your clients. But what value are you bringing to that relationship? And then it's thinking every time you meet somebody, what value can I bring to this person? Hey, I like networking with professional women. So then I send them to an organization that has professional women. And they just think of me as a resource. So think of yourself as a value person rather than as a salesperson. Like I said, as you start meeting people, then the industry and what you do comes after, and they think of that automatically after because they're already thinking of you as a giver. And if you're starting online and you're starting to network online, it's a little bit more limited, or it feels more limited because you don't have that face-to-face interaction. It's getting yourself in the right rooms through clear communication with the people that you're networking with. So if I told somebody, hey, I network really well with marketing individuals, let me know next time you see a group that has a lot of marketing individuals, because I'd love to be in that virtual room with them. And as you're getting in those rooms with the people that you want to meet, networking becomes a little bit more second nature, because when you're faced with 25 prospects that you can meet rather than just the one. You feel that pressure if you're faced with one person, only one person in a room of 50, then you're like, I have to sell to this person because they're my ideal client and I have to sell to them. But then when there's abundance in the room and there's 25 potential clients, then you're a little bit more relaxed. You're like, okay, let me just get to know these people to see if they're even a good fit for me and my company.
And leading with value is something that works in sales, it works in marketing, it works in all of the cases. A lot of people, they have a business, they don't know why they're getting sales, they don't know why they're getting people through the door, they don't know why they're connecting people. And I think it's because they don't, they might not know their value, they might not be offering enough value in what they're doing, right? They just show up and they're like, they decide one day they're going to be a social media manager. And they're like, how come I'm not getting any 10K retainer clients? I decided yesterday I was a social media manager. Well, you probably have to take on, prove your worth, show your value, get results, right? Build your value over time and become that go-to person for that service. And you're also talking really a lot about branding, personal branding, being able to communicate the value you offer and who you serve, what you do probably plays a huge role in actually being good at networking, because you being a super connector can go, oh, that person does this because they've been able to communicate that to you. I used to be early on in my career when I was in the corporate world and I was struggling to advance or sell on my own or anything like that. I had it in my head that if I just keep offering value, people will figure out I'm valuable. And that wasn't the whole piece, because no one figured out because I wasn't good at communicating it. But I knew I offered value. I did really, really great work, but no one thought I did really great work, even though my work got results. But I wasn't good at actually connecting the dots for people. And when I was able to be successful in my business, it's because I was able to offer value and actually communicate it at the same time. And then people started wanting to connect with me. And then people wanted to refer my work. And then sales conversations became easy because I had the value. And of course, you can always get better at these things, right? And grow and all of those things. But for me as a business owner, that was such a clicking moment that I was able to combine those things as an individual. And then I think it also gave me the confidence to see those things in other people and want to network with and work with more people, which then just opens you up to even more opportunities.
Definitely. And what you're speaking to is that delivery aspect. Because if you have the value and you're able to communicate it, but then you're not able to deliver it, then you're not going to have anybody come back to you and you're not going to have anybody that trust you. I want to touch to the fact about the personal brand, because a lot of people get lost in that sometimes, in that they themselves become the business. And after they leave the business, then the business fails because somebody else taking over is not going to have the same personality, the same way of running the business as you do. If you are running a team or you are in a corporation, at that point, I think identity and values are very important, and feeding that back to the people that you are delegating to and outsourcing to is also very important. You want to make sure that what you're out there, let's say personally with me, I really enjoyed networking and selling and going out and engaging with the community, but I wasn't physically producing a lot of the work. I wanted to make sure that when I did send people, what I said out there became true and was delivered when they came and they spoke to my employees and my staff. And that's what I'm very clear with my clients. You better do what you said you were going to do, because as soon as you don't, you've lost people's trust.
And I think that carries a certain energy and a quality to it that people can pick up on. And again, in the online space, which is a lot of that coaches, creators, online business owners, is that we're translating that energy. We're communicating in some way with our body language, with our facial expressions, how we're showing up, the consistency of with which we're showing up, how we're writing, how we're communicating through that. And I think the energetics come through in that way. So we've talked a little bit about how we can expand our network, how we can grow our network, why it's important to do so. building resources for your business, really making those connections so that you can find vendors, find people that you trust, build those relationships with. And then, of course, for the sales aspect as well, is how can people either share and refer to your business or become prospective clients and work with you in the capacity in which you deliver, which is all very positive. Now, there is another aspect of kind of like magnetic energy. So, how can someone start to embody certain characteristics, traits? Are there things that they can do to make people want to connect with them? Because again, I've been in networking opportunities and it's very clear in a room of people what people you maybe want to avoid or not talk to. And then those people who just seem to have a draw. And it's like, I got to meet that person. How do you kind of help people embody that energy? How do you help people show up with that? And how do you help people kind of own that so that people are attracted to them and want to network with them?
It's funny, I'm laughing because as soon as you said that, I could imagine like walking into a room and being, okay, I'm avoiding that person. And then it's like, okay, that's the person that I want to meet. And one of the things that people struggle with is they go in and they think they have to be everybody's friend. And I think it comes from being a bit of a people pleaser. And I'm guilty of this too. And you go in and you just want everybody to like you. Like, how could people possibly not like me? I have to relate to other people. But where that, as you called it, magnetism comes from is from being genuine and engaging with genuine interest. If somebody starts talking to me about a sport that I have no idea what they're talking about, it's not about okay, let me engage, let me see what I can say to this conversation. It's about saying, oh, actually, I don't watch that, tell me more. And just going into conversations with curiosity. Tell me more about what you do, show me your dog's picture, tell me about that event that you went to. I saw that you posted on Instagram about that restaurant, was it good? But only if it's genuinely interesting to you. Because the moment that you start trying to be everybody's friend, you're going to be nobody's friend. And you want to make sure that you're engaging with people on that personal level, not only so that you start working and being around people that you like, because that's where your network gets a little bit stronger and better. Because if you actually like hanging out with people, if you actually like talking to these people, then you're more likely to send them business or use them for your business. But it also comes from the fact that you're avoiding the people that don't match your energy, and you're staying away from those people from so you're creating your own little network in that like aspects, because you're engaging with people that you really like. It makes one of the things that people struggle with the most, which is follow up. It makes it easier because you want to follow up. You enjoyed meeting Michelle. You enjoyed talking to Joanna. You would like that conversation, so you remember that conversation, and then you're more likely to follow up with people about that.
Yeah, and I think when you think of that room going into, I love thinking about that genuine connection. Because I think so many times, especially if your business is struggling, right? If you don't have abundance of clients or students or customers or whoever you're looking for, you can go into those situations with like a scarcity mindset. And then you're like, if you're talking and connecting with one person and you see something great going on over there, you're not focused in on that. Or you're like trying to get the sale or the thing in that moment. And that scarcity mindset is actually hurting your growth. It's not giving you that magnetism because you're not in the moment. You're not being genuine. You're not being real and like focusing on real connections. You're just trying to make the sale or get the connection that somebody doesn't have. But when you're actually seeking genuine connection, you will get genuine connection at the end of the day, because there could be 100 people in that room and all 100 people could help you. But if you connect with one, that's fantastic, right? And that can grow your business. And you really never know what person is going to make an impact on your business. Maybe it was 2 years ago, I spoke at a conference for the company I worked for at the time. And I was talking about like TikTok growth and social growth. And I was on a panel. And honestly, I think like what I said like fell flat in the room. They were like financial people. They were not ready to hear about TikTok growth and engagement strategies for parents. Like they weren't ready for it. And I remember getting off the stage and being like, anytime I talked, I felt like the energy in the room, like, bleh. I was like, oh no, this was not good. And I was fine with it. It was okay. I was up there representing my company and I represented them well. But like the strategies and the things that I was sharing, like, did not go well. But after that talk, there was like a mixer later that day. One person came up to me and they loved everything I have to say. And they're one of our retainer clients for my company that I was like sort of building on the side. He ended up reaching out to me months later, was like, I need to figure out how to do this and I want your help, right? Just one person. And that's huge, a happenstance moment. I was genuine to myself, even if the audience wasn't with me, but one person was. And I think we forget that. Like, even in those moments where we might think we're awkward or weird or something didn't go right, like you could connect with the one person that's going to help your business.
And like you said, at least you can walk off the stage saying, I was me. Like this was me. I represented myself and my company well. And that's right. That one connection. And it's funny you say that, walking into the room with that scarcity mentality, because one of the things that I teach during one of my workshops is, if you are going out there to engage in conversation, I tell people only bring 5 business cards, because then you're going to be very selective as to who you're going to give your business card to. If you have 20, 25 business cards, every person you meet, you're like, here, have my card. Give my card. But if you have 5, and slowly you start realizing as you give one out, you're like, oh, I only have 4 cards left. Should I have given that card out? Then you're more selective about the people that you're engaging with. And to be honest, in a room of 100, 250 people, you're not going to meet all of them ever. There's no way that you would meet every single person in that room. And that's where you can really use your network. Because if you come into an event that's 200 people and maybe you know 1 or 2, and you tell your network that you know those 2 people, hey, like, I'm a little bit overwhelmed. Is there anybody that you think I should meet? And people forget to utilize their network in that sense. Those 2 people know you, and they'll have a different network from you, and they'll know other people in the room. And that's how you're getting, as I was mentioning before, into the room with the people that you want to meet. Because in that room of 200, it's overwhelming. But if you're more strategic and you say, hey, if I just meet 1, 2, 5 people, that's all I have to do. And sometimes I'll do that. I'll walk in with 5 business cards and I'll have a goal of meeting 2 new people. And once I do that, I'll leave the event. I'll do an Irish exit. Feel like I achieved my goal. I'm good. I'm out of here.
Really coming back to what's the intention and the focus of why you're networking in the first place? What are you looking to accomplish? How are you looking to leverage the opportunity, not just going in random without any clear picture in mind of how you want to meet new people, who you're looking to meet, and what that can possibly do for you. That doesn't mean that you don't seize new opportunities or any opportunity that presents itself in front of you, but having that clear intention, that goal, and like you said, really focusing on the quality of the relationships that you're building, as opposed to, let me meet as many people as possible. Let me meet clear, intentional people who are going to build relationships over time with, and how that's going to help support my business, help support me, and how can I then give back in the meantime as well. Maria, thank you so much for taking us through this conversation today. If someone wanted to learn more about what you do and how to get started with networking and how they can improve their networking skills, where can they find you?
They can go on my site, thecoachingnetwork.com, or they can also, feel free to go on Instagram and direct message me, Maria Medina Coach. I'm very quick to reply to messages like that. And if they want to find out more about the courses, the website's the best place to go.
Thank you so much, Maria, for being with us today, sharing your expertise, talking about networking. I know that I'm personally inspired to start really thinking about my network as a community, as a tribe, as a village that can help me grow my business, try to be a little less hyper independent and do everything myself. I really appreciate your thoughts today. And for all of our listeners who want to learn more, please check out the links in our show notes. We will get you connected with Maria.
Thanks for tuning in. Find the link in the show notes to join us in the Her First Collective, a free Facebook group to discuss the podcast, ask questions of our guest experts, and network with a group of female entrepreneurs who value collaboration over competition.
Please subscribe, share, leave a review, and be sure to catch our next episode. What is one thing you can do today to prioritize you in business and life?